Phil and Will are back. Survivor episode 11 just happened. Worlds apart. Probably going to go down as the season with the most entertaining pagonging of all time. That was absolutely unreal. I still tonight did not think Shireen was going to go home. The last 3 weeks I haven't been confident. And then this one, 4 straight weeks, I was surprised. And I think you kind of feel the same way. What'd you think, Willie?
Yeah, I mean, if we're going to go through it, we have Haley, Joe, Jen, Shireen, who from the merge, Shireen went with them, the no callers, and Will flips. So that's been like a 4 for a while. And then obviously Mike joined in on that later when he was on the outs. But like you said, I mean, the best pagani of all time, because every episode you're kind of like wondering what is going to happen. There's always something. There's always some question of really what's going on. Mike again got so close to making a great move and then just botched it, in my opinion. Just kind of with the auction thing, like when you're gonna do something like that, you got to go all out with it. And what I'm referring to is the bluff with the idol. You got to work that out with Shireen earlier. You got to discuss this before you go to trial and say, look, Shireen, I'm gonna give you the idol, and say, look, it's yours to play. You can play it or not. Have her put it around her neck. But tell her, look, Shireen, don't actually play it. They'll buy it. They'll buy it. Do you think that would work, Phil? If you're sitting there and you're Dan, even who seems to say it was a bluff the whole time in the preview, that's what it looked like at least. If Shireen's wearing that and Mike just gave it to her and didn't put it back in his own pocket, are you more afraid of Shireen actually playing it?
I would honestly be scared as Mike to give it to Shireen, because why would Shireen not play it if she knows she's going home? So I'd be terrified as Mike. And yeah, if she's sitting there with it around her neck, yeah, I mean, I would think if she's got to play it. Like, there's no way she wouldn't play it if she has it. If Mike actually gives it to her, I think Mike holding on to it kind of sold that he wasn't giving it to her.
Right, exactly. That's my point. He gave it away that it was a bluff. Like I mean, I texted you right when this happened, when he told everyone I'm going to play it on Shireen. It's like, no, you're not. You would have given it to her. But why? Do you think there's any way you can actually trust someone with your idol to not to play it? Yeah. Say, look, Shireen, just put it around your neck. So you wouldn't even think about that, because I think that would have worked. I think that's the next level that his plan needed. Like, he needed to go that far.
Let me ask you something, though. Well, I guess what would have had to have happened is you'd have to trust Shireen 100% that she's not going to play it. And what would have to happen is Shireen would have to get up and say, I'm going to act like she's going to play the idol and then give it back to Mike, because Mike could get totally screwed there if she doesn't play it and still somehow gets the votes and gets voted out of the game, or if she plays it and he loses the idol. And that kind of could have screwed him big time. I think he played it a little bit safer than what you're saying. I still thought this was an awesome move.
It still is a pretty good move, and it still definitely did some things. There are going to be some repercussions of it. We saw Tyler vote for Dan. Will vote for Dan. Will probably will get away with it like he did earlier this season when he flipped on the no callers.
They all thought that Mike was actually going to throw a vote at Dan, and they kind of knew it. And seriously, if Sierra would have just said, I'm not going to vote for Shireen, I'm going to vote for Will or Dan, that could have been insane.
Wait, no, Sierra, if she had voted Tyler, because early in the episode, it was Sierra saying, I want Tyler. So I was thinking, man, maybe Sierra votes Tyler. And then later we found out that Mike really didn't throw a random vote. He actually voted with Shireen in voting Tyler. So that would have been 3 for Tyler, 3 for Shireen. And the tie then, I mean, it wouldn't work out in the end. But what I'm saying is you need to talk with Shireen before and get her to say, like, look, have her swear on her, like, I guess she has no family.
Wow.
Sorry.
Wow.
No, I'm just thinking, like, swear on her boyfriend, you know?
Because, I mean, obviously she can't sit there and say, I'm going to swear on my father's grave or my
something like that.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying.
Father's an asshole, so that can't happen.
Let me ask you something here, though. Before we really rant about this, let me ask you this. If Mike says to Shireen beforehand, or gets everybody together and goes, I have an idol, pulls out the idol at the tribe, and says, I'm giving this to Shireen, and even just hands it to her in front of everybody without doing it at tribal council, they would all go into a panic and have to discuss amongst each other who we voting out. So and then I think Shireen stays.
You're talking about before tribal even happens.
After he wins immunity, if he goes back to camp and says, I'm not going home, Shireen's not going home because I'm giving her this idol, and he gives it to her, and then she gives it back to him or something, but like they had this whole plan, I think Shireen stays because they see it in her hands and then they have to scramble and can actually discuss who they're going to vote for. Here, it was like they all got so paranoid they couldn't all assign their votes to somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like they couldn't all say we're voting Dan or we're all voting Tyler.
Yeah, that's interesting. There's something about like doing it at tribal that really gets people on their toes, and like you don't have time to talk, so your true colors are going to come out. You don't have time to kind of make up a lie, like if you're going to lie to Dan about something. So there's also the other side where, yeah, tribal is just going to, like what Tyler did. He's like, I have to do it. You know, he was afraid.
This is kind of like the what do you call it? The Malcolm incident where he gave the idol to Reynolds and gave the idol to Eddie to get rid of Philip. It was a cool move, but the benefit to Malcolm wasn't enough. I feel like that's kind of what happened here with Mike.
2 idols, kind of.
You know what I mean? Like I almost feel like that's a little bit of like what could have happened here with Mike had he given it to Shireen or something, because then he would have probably went next week if he loses. Now Mike's got at least another week, and all Mike has to do is win immunity against Rodney's a meathead, but Rodney's not that good at challenges. These challenges test different parts of you. Tyler is good at these challenges. Other than that, I mean, he's going to beat Sierra. Sierra's proven that she's really not good at any of them, even though she looks like she's athletic. Carolyn's pretty good, but at the same time, like, you know, she's not that great. She beat Shireen and Sierra at the challenge today. Like, that wasn't that impressive. You know what I mean? Like, so he doesn't have much competition. Dan and Will are useless.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying there. I just think so let me just ask you this right now. If you're Mike and you approach Shireen with that and she tells you, yes, I will give it back to you, I'll stand up as if I'm going to play it and then give it back to you. Do you think that doesn't work? You think Shireen's just going to play it on herself and be selfish? Because that's just a totally – Mike has immunity. He's not going anywhere. He can totally throw you under the bus in front of the jury next tribal council. Yeah. She stole my idol. Again, Shireen's only alliance is Mike anyway, so why tick him off? I wouldn't worry about Shireen. I'd say, look, act as if I'm giving it to you and you're going to play it, but give it back to me. I think she stays, and I think they would vote Dan or something.
I think that's why I'm saying if he would have given it to her on the beach, I know tribal is more dramatic, but if he gives it to her on the beach, I mean, I think she goes. I think if he gives it to her on the beach, she goes.
Right, she
stays. I mean, I'm sorry. Somebody else goes because they get so paranoid. They're like, oh my God, Shireen has it. We know she has it in her possession, and then they get scared.
But don't you automatically assume bluff then if you have that much time to think about it? I feel like tribal, you're like, oh my God, this is happening so quickly. They're trying to catch us off our, you know, because if I'm Tyler and I'm thinking, wait a sec, like Mike just gave this to Dan on the beach to Shireen, like that doesn't mean anything. It could easily. But if she's sitting there on the bench, Jeff's right there. There's an idol around her neck. She's all giddy, you know.
Yeah.
It really would enter your mind.
There's just so much. I mean, there's so many places that people can screw each other over in this game that it just gets harder and harder every year to figure out what's going to happen. And that's probably why this is the most entertaining Pagonging of all time, because there's so many ways that this game could have shifted. And really, these people, even though they were going to be the ones out, we still thought that they were going to be a swing vote of some sort every single week. I mean, Joe was the only kind of predictable one, but it was still a pretty crazy episode where we thought Jen was going to go. So, I mean, I bet you next season, if season 31 is a real thing, Joe and Shireen are probably both going to be back.
I mean, I think Joe will be. I don't know about Shireen.
Shireen
I feel like we got our Shireen.
You know who Shireen is? Shireen is Cochran.
Yeah.
Like they didn't like her on the island, but the fans started to like her because she got bullied and picked on so much. I don't see how she's a huge fan. Like she's literally the girl version of Cochran.
Yeah, but they weren't annoyed with Cochran.
Yeah, they were. They hated Cochran. Are you kidding? Go back and rewatch South Pacific, dude. His whole tribe hated him. Even Dawn didn't like him. And then the other tribe didn't like him either. They just used him. I feel like that's pretty much what Shireen is.
All right. I mean, it could be.
Don't actually rewatch South Pacific.
I'd love to see. Yeah, I'm not actually going to rewatch that.
That was a bad Pagonging. That was a bad one.
I would love to see Jen come back, even though I don't think there's any chance in hell because she had her whole quit thing. But she'd said literally she tried strategizing her ass off and nothing came of it. And like she just didn't. There was nothing she could really do. So, I'd still like to see her back. Who else?
Haley would be the girl I'd want to see.
Haley, yeah, I'd like to see Haley again too.
Otherwise, Shireen would be the second girl I'd want back from this season because Jen they'll never ask back.
Right, right. Okay, let's get into this episode. Just go through it. Yeah, chronologically.
Yeah, I mean, we might as well. We covered pretty much the whole end of it, but beginning is pretty much the what do you call that?
Well,
The after.
it starts with Dan.
Yeah, who's
And
just so dumb. Every week he gets dumber, and it's so annoying.
somehow he had like the worst episode he's ever had, really. It seems like everything he says is wrong. And they like spell it out for us. Like he is just in completely wrong in everything he says.
You know what's funny is it's almost like Dan is spelling it out for us himself without realizing he's spelling it out for us. Like he like doesn't realize like he's beating us over the head with what he thinks is Shireen being stupid when it's really him being stupid. Like, sorry, Steel Punch, but I mean Dan's just he digs himself a bigger grave every single week.
I felt like Dan this episode was like Jason in Micronesia. And whereas like he has all these confessionals and then people have a confessional right after just kind of making fun of him, like just stringing him along, and he's just falling for it every single time. And it's fun to watch, honestly. It's good television.
Yeah, I mean, it really was. And I mean, I think that had Shireen actually gotten the idol and played it, I still think that they somehow would have voted Dan off before they would have voted Tyler off, because Rodney wanted to keep Tyler and Carolyn would have wanted to keep Tyler. Sierra probably would have went Dan's way. I don't know where Will would have went. Actually, yeah.
Will without talking to anyone voted Dan.
Yeah, I guess Mike would probably vote Tyler, and so would Shireen, so Tyler would still probably go. But Dan was very close to going, somehow stayed, and I think that Dan is setting himself up as the perfect GOAT right now, where he's gonna be in the final three, and he's gonna get third place.
Yeah, I can totally see Dan in the finals. People will just let him have it too. So yeah, the first thing is he says he doesn't believe in the four. He literally thinks Mike just made it up. Which I said this last. I don't get how it doesn't cross your mind as like a possibility. You have to really consider, like, does he really think Mike is that dumb that he just this thing just came out of nowhere in his brain? I just don't get it.
It's almost like every time that something like comes up, like Dan has a problem seeing that like he could possibly ever be wrong. And he acts like he's so much smarter than everybody else who's out there on the island. Like, oh, yeah, you don't know how to play the games. You can't do basic math, all this stuff. And then he sits there and it's like, Dan, that 4 has been that 4 for like 5 episodes now. Like, that's been there the whole time. Like, how blind are you to this? Like, I don't understand how you could be that blind. And like, right. Mike's 100% right. And Mike's just trying to get Dan and Sierra's votes back. Tonight would have been the perfect night for Mike, Dan, Sierra, Shireen to take it over and go right to the final 4. They could have walked.
Yeah, I mean, there's always the argument. We're watching it on TV. We've seen this 4 kind of take shape over, pretty much since the merge. It was originally Kelly instead of Tyler, but then, right when Kelly went out, Tyler took Kelly's place. So we've been watching it. And let's say Dan has the 4 have never gotten together, and let's just say he's seen nothing, okay? Absolutely nothing. Like, there's no physical evidence that he's seen. He hasn't heard people talking. The only thing he has to go on is Mike saying that's true. I heard them talking. You still should probably consider that being real. You shouldn't just shrug it off as like, he's delusional, he's paranoid, he's making that up. No, like, you have to listen to what Mike, your best ally since day one, is saying, and he just doesn't listen. And
that's what this whole season is right now, though. It's like last week we saw it with Will. This week we're seeing with Dan. It's these older men who just don't understand that they can be wrong. They're so used to telling people probably what to do and being right all the time. They don't realize that these younger people, no matter how young they are, they can be right. Like, I'm sorry, older does not necessarily mean wiser in every single situation. Like, other people are living a life. When you were younger, you thought you were just as smart as you think you are now. Like, Dan does not understand that these younger people are as smart, and every single one of them is smarter. They could have put a baby on the island, and the baby would have been smarter than Dan. Like, seriously, this was ridiculous.
Yeah,
he's just ridiculous.
He says, I don't think I'm on the bottom. I have moves of my own or something like that. Like, he hasn't done anything. And then he talks to Mike. He's like, I can point what moves I've done. Like, he has not made any moves at all. Like, he won the advantage, got really lucky, and like he's not winning this game. We know.
No.
that
I think what's happening behind the scenes is Rodney is playing a fantastic game, and we're not seeing all of it. They're kind of showing him as more of a character than a player because he is a character. And I think what's happening is Rodney is sitting there behind the scenes telling Dan, "Hey man, we can once we hit Final 7, you and me together, you, me, Sierra, we're going to the Final 3." I wouldn't be surprised if that's what's happening. And Dan really thinks that that's the truth. And Dan has his extra vote, so he thinks, "Hey, I can turn the game on its head. All we need is one more." Like, I seriously think that's probably what's happening, and Rodney's playing a much better game than he's getting credit for, of course.
Yeah, I'd love to see more from like Rodney strategically. Yeah, it kind of worries me that that preview shows him like, I want to be on the jury, vote me out. Like that just, I don't want to see that again. No, we can't go down that road. He already went down that with Jen.
He's not going to quit.
Right. And before the titles came up, we have just another great moment from Dan. Again, just like apologizing to Shireen. And then he says, "I feel bad for her. However," and then like this kind of darker music starts playing. He starts getting all very articulate. And we know this about Dan, and he just kind of is an idiot again.
Yeah, like that's actually exactly what happened. Dan was just like, he just comes out and he doesn't say the right thing ever. And it really does get old eventually. You know what I'm saying? Like I get tired of hearing Dan just constantly ripping into people. Like I get like some Rodney, I don't get tired of. Mike, I was getting tired of, and now I like Mike again. Dan, I'm getting tired of. I'm getting tired of listening to it. And him constantly antagonizing people and insulting people, it's not funny. At the beginning, it was kind of amusing. Now it's not funny. It's not amusing. It's just stupid. And it's him just becoming more and more unlikable to the point where he's not even a villain on the season. He's just a dick. He's not a villain on this season because he's not the Tony or the Cass. Like, there's nothing to him. Like, he's not opposing anybody that we're really rooting for as the hero. He's just out there being annoying to everyone.
Yeah, it is getting old a little bit, but I still love like when they cut to Dan saying something and just he's wrong every time. It is funny. Okay, the reward challenge, pretty cool challenge. I like this one. What'd you think here?
Yeah, this was like a game we used to play in gym class where it was like you had a mat, you had like a little plank, you had like all this stuff, and it was like a team thing where like you had to get all the way across, and you could. And Mike was the typical like class kid who was like, "I'm the best athlete ever. I'm 7 years old, and I could do this myself. I could jump across this basketball court." And I mean, his strategy seemed like it could work. I don't think he realized that was like pretty much a football field that he had to go across, and he was eventually going to be exhausted because he's barely been eating. But it was an entertaining challenge.
Yeah, this is why I think Mike, another reason why I think he wins, this really added to it. This challenge specifically, and especially the confessional they showed when he got back, and Jeff keeps saying, Mike is exhausted. He's putting his heart into it, like all this stuff.
Tyler sucks. He's just doing it with his brain. He stinks. Like,
yeah, what is, you can look at this two ways when you see someone like put the team on their back like that. One way to look at it is, wow, he's just going after it. He's a competitor. He'll do anything for the cheeseburgers. Or you can look at it as, this is a team challenge. We need to work together. You can't just do this on your own. There's 4 people that need to navigate these barrels and planks, and all you're doing is leaning across all 3, like slowly, like, you know, humping them on those, trying to wiggle them across while the other 3 people stand on the barrel.
What bothered me is afterwards he complained that the other 3 people didn't do anything. Like, he clearly wanted it to be about him.
I don't think it was even him. Like, he complained a little bit saying, yeah, you know, I tried really hard. I did all I could. And that's the confessional we're seeing. We don't get any confessionals from anyone else saying, man, Mike really just kind of ruined the challenge for us today. He just wouldn't stop humping the barrels. And again, we don't know if there was a confessional like that, but this is why and this has been going on for weeks now. Everything we see from Mike is positive, even when you could easily spin this as he took over the challenge selfishly and lost it for 4 people. Easily you could spin it that way. It gets spun that he's the only one competing. He put the whole team on his back. They almost won, but because no one else was doing anything, that's why they lost. And that's how it was spun. And that's what a winner's edit entails, when you're shown things are spun positively for a character. And honestly, like, who else am I really rooting for? I do really like Mike a lot. And it's kind of lame that he's getting so much positivity because there isn't many other people to root for. There
Yeah,
really just isn't.
it was like how I kept saying Haley was going to be the winner, like way back, because she was getting all the positive attention and Jen was getting all the negative attention. That didn't pan out, but I think it's too late in the season now for anything to really change. We don't know any of these people. We know Rodney, but we haven't seen him strategize. Like we've seen him. Okay, I'm sorry. We've seen him strategize, but it almost seems like the editors are almost making fun of his attempts to strategize, where it's like, this is going to fail. Don't worry. Maybe that's just how I'm viewing it, but I feel like they're not really taking it super seriously. Tyler, seriously, might be playing one of the best games Survivor's seen, and yet we're not seeing a single thing from him. Nobody. I don't think we've ever seen this level-headed of a player. I think the only one who's really close is Sophie Clark, and she ended up winning. Like where like you literally never get out of your head. Like you're just sitting there and it's like, go ahead, yell at me, scream at me, I don't care. And you're always one step ahead. You have the numbers within the numbers, and that's what he is. He could be a great person to root for. Him and Mike could be both great people to root for, but we're not seeing enough of Tyler. We saw so much of Shireen, Joe, Jen, and Haley, which was great for this season, but they're all sitting on the jury. I want to watch an hour of Ponderosa.
Yeah, I would love an hour of Ponderosa. Totally. I agree with you, man. I imagine just, and Sierra is so likable too, and she seems so
Sierra
smart.
was great tonight.
Imagine just an equal Sierra, Tyler, Mike edit. They're all equal, and you know even Carolyn it doesn't seem to be that bad. We're at Final 7 now, and you have 3 people that are just really likable, really smart, playing strong games. It'd be fun. I feel like we have Mike, and we have Mike, and that's it.
Yeah, and we have a doorbell. Ding dong. What does that mean? We get like a special treat or something? Sorry. But yeah, we got our first distractions ever on this podcast. Anyway, yeah, man. No, I thought this is fantastic. I thought that it was like it's like they could have built up so many storylines that they just didn't build up. Like I'll just keep talking about the storylines because Willie's going on. I just like they could have built up so many more storylines. This could have been very Kagayan like, where it was like there's so many people to root for. There's so many different characters. They're all doing different things. You have your heroes. You have your villains. You have your in-betweeners. Rodney would be an in-betweener. Rodney would be a great Tony. Like, that's really what Rodney could be. And Mike could be your whoever, a Tasha or something. And, you know, like Spencer and what's his name? Tyler could be very similar. But instead, we're just getting so much Mike. And I'm not saying this is a poorly edited season. I'm just saying.
No, I will. I'll go that far. I'll say that it is.
You really think so? Because I don't think it is. I think we got to know a lot of these characters, and that's why, even though the cast is unlikable, I have liked it. I have, like, really enjoyed this season. Even though the cast is pretty, like, they're not bad cast. They're just unlikable people.
I think from episode to episode, it's really, really strong. And, like, when we get down to the vote, what actually happens, it's really close, and we don't really know. We're left up in the air. But for where we're headed, we have only 7 people left. We just don't know the remaining players as well as we know Ponderosa, like you said. It's how it's gone.
Yeah, which is, I mean, it's a shame. It really is a shame. But at the same point, it's really not Survivor's. It's not the editor's complete fault, because I don't want to watch more of Will. And we've seen so much of Dan. I don't really want to see more of Dan. They can't show Dan as a likable guy if he's not. And I'm
okay with Dan and Will getting nothing. I'm
not a huge Carolyn fan. We have gotten a lot of Rodney. If Rodney won this game, I would not be surprised at all. It's just that they never look like they're taking him seriously, which is the biggest problem.
Yeah, Rodney's chances go way down next week too, as we see in the preview. And it's like, I guess right now it's like Tyler or Mike. That really is it. And that's for being at 7. That's not where you want to be. It almost feels like last season where we only had Natalie and like kind of John
and kind of Keith, like very kind of Keith.
But no one actually ever. No, I mean, he was funny.
Yeah, it speaks to something though when like Keith was somebody to root for last season, like that. I mean, that speaks to how much better this season is. Yes, we will consistently rip apart San Juan del Sur any chance we get. We will
any chance at all.
Any chance. There is no defending it for anybody who keeps trying to defend it and tell us we're too hard on it. Oh, man. Okay, anyway. Where were we next? We did the reward challenge. What did you think of the reward this time? This was a good reward, finally. This was a cool reward.
Of course. This was probably the best one they've had yet. You got a burger, fries. It looks like they had maybe some type of pina colada or something. Who wouldn't want that? And then Tyler and Carolyn just played Dan so well here. This is just another scene where Dan just looks like a complete idiot.
This is when I thought Dan was going home. I thought Dan was going home after this because he looked so stupid and Tyler looked so good.
It was basically them saying Carolyn, once the challenge ended, Carolyn says, this is a great opportunity to talk to Dan. And then Dan's like, yeah, I'm excited to be on reward with these guys. And Tyler and Carolyn keep talking. We need to focus on the other two, which is exactly what they want to do. And it worked. It worked completely because he got approached by Shreen. He got approached by Mike before Tribal. And Tyler and Carolyn were in his head. He thought he's, not at the bottom of the 6-person alliance.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Tyler's playing a great game, and he could easily be somebody to root for if they would just show a little bit more of him. They're just not showing nearly enough Tyler or Carolyn. I mean, we're getting a little bit more because we're running out of people to show. Now that Shireen's gone, I think that they're really going to – I think it's going to become way more evenly edited. But we've lost a lot of our big characters is really what it comes down to. And
Yeah, I guess like what you said, now that we're down to so few people, that they're going to have to start getting more time. And maybe that will work. Maybe this can be recovered where next week we get a bunch from Sierra, we get a bunch from Tyler. We're still going to get a lot from Mike. I feel like we're going to get a lot from him no matter what until he either goes home or, wins the darn thing. So there's a chance it can still work out.
I mean, we're definitely not. The thing with Mike is we know he's not going home next week because if he loses immunity, he's going to play his idol. And he's smart enough to know that they're not going to be able to trick him into not playing his idol. So it's kind of like I think it's going to be more interesting watching the episode knowing that like Mike doesn't really have anybody to defend and he's not going home. Like, so Mike is completely on his own and he can kind of toy with everybody. And let's see if he can actually work some numbers and get a split, or if it's just going to be everybody decides, you know what, let's all get rid of Will or let's all get rid of Tyler. I can't believe they got rid of Shireen over Tyler tonight. It makes so much more sense to get rid of Tyler. Shireen could win the game but wasn't going to win the game. Tyler seriously could win the game.
Yeah, what was this whole thing about Shireen not being able to win? Even Sierra was on there. Of course, Dan, that's what he's thinking.
Yeah.
But Sierra was even like, yeah, it's true. No one's going to vote for her in the end. That didn't feel right to me, because if you think about who's on the jury, it's Haley, Joe, and Jen, who Shireen was close with all of them, I'm pretty sure.
Well, here's my dream situation here. I completely agree. I don't understand why she couldn't win the game. But my dream situation here is that Will is the next one voted off and goes to Ponderosa, and we get to watch the Ponderosas of Joe, Jen, and Haley sticking up for Shireen and ripping into Will. Because I think that would happen. I think those three really actually like Shireen, and I think everybody else is just too stupid to notice.
Yeah, I really think that. Because I was almost thinking, wow, Shireen is – because it was like with Sandra in Heroes vs. Villains. I mean, Russell's like, no one's going to give her $1 million, even though it already happened once. Yeah. And look what happened. I felt some Sandra vibes from Shireen tonight, except that she got voted off. That's never happened to Sandra.
Okay. I mean, okay, well, let's go to the immunity challenge, because, I mean, we just keep rambling to the end of this. But the immunity challenge, I always like when they do where a man and a woman win, but I like it right at the beginning of the merge. I didn't realize one in three is not hard.
That's the problem. I'll take it any time as long as there's an even amount on each side. Yeah. It's like what baseball just did. They realigned their divisions because the AL West only had 4 teams and the NL Central had 6 teams. And it's like at the start of the season, you either have a 1 in 4 shot or a 1 in 6 shot. Like, that's just not fair. Yeah. Carolyn, Sierra, and Shireen, they had 1 in 3. The guys had 1 in 5. It just they should try to do that when it's even numbers. I don't mind. I mean, it wasn't that big of a deal.
To be fair, it's Tyler, Mike, and Rodney. It was pretty much a 1 in 3 shot for the guys. Dan and Will are useless.
That's fair. That's very true. But
maybe that's how the producers were looking at it.
Yeah, each person has a 1 in 3 shot or a 0 shot.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I like that. I like this challenge. I still don't like that they do 25% of people's body weight, because when they do memory challenges and they do strategic challenges, it doesn't change to your IQ. So, like, I don't really like when they do this, because I think there should be some challenges that just stronger people can win. And I think that's how it should be. I mean, you know, granted, the guys lasted longer anyway, but I'm just never a big fan of that.
I'm totally okay with that. Because then it's the girls have a 0 in whatever chance. And you want at least, I guess if you do boy girl, you could do.
But a lot of times when they do the small purchase for your feet, sometimes it's to your foot size, sometimes it's not. When they did that thing holding on to the poles, it didn't change to your foot size. People with bigger feet are going to have a harder time. So people who are weaker should have a harder time at challenges like this. Like, that's just my opinion. I like the old school way where it was just everybody.
I like the foot changing. I think it's like you don't want to just be out of a challenge at the start of it. You want to have a chance to win.
That's what happens a lot though with these. I'm saying with these foothold ones, they don't change anything, and anybody can win, but the big fat guys can't.
Really, I bet you for every single time that there's like a foothold or placement or size comes to mind. If you're going to ask John Kierhofer, why did you or did you not have a foothold change size based on the person's foot, he would have a very legit answer. I
don't like the men left in the game. I'm just
it would be because they plan these things way in advance. I bet you there's a reason for why some challenges change, some don't.
Yeah,
but there's a reason.
What did you think of this Rodney versus Mike? Because Carolyn versus Shireen, I knew Carolyn was going to win. I like that it was Carolyn versus Shireen. I couldn't believe Sierra fell out as fast as she did. But what did you think of Rodney versus Mike? Like,
this should have been a better battle, right? If you want to look at the ropes around there, the knobs there, Mike's was like he had like 3 coils. Rodney had like half a one or a full one when it was just them head to head at the end. It's not like it was all that close. It's not like they really built up this battle, and you could kind of just tell the whole time Rodney was going to lose.
Yeah, Rodney skips forearm day. That's what we learned tonight. But Dan, what did you think of Dan's sideline coaching? That sure was fun, right?
I was expecting Rodney to be like, just shut the hell up, Dan.
That's what I was expecting.
Just sit down. Like, how annoying would that be when you're trying to focus every bit of your soul into doing one task, and having anyone chirp in your ear would be awful. But have Dan, I'm surprised he didn't like chew him out, honestly.
That's what I was expecting, because I would have been the same way. I'd have been like, Dan, leave me alone. I'm focusing. Like, don't talk to me. Like, that's one of those where it's not really helping you. It's more distracting because it's like, here is this obnoxious accent. Like, he's saying things that don't even make sense, and he's like whispering in my ear real softly. Like, it's really disturbing. Like, I wouldn't want that.
Yeah. Anything else on the immunity? I think we covered it pretty well there.
Yeah, I mean, that was really it. It wasn't that great of a challenge. I still like the endurance challenges, so it's cool. I'm glad Mike won. I wish Shireen would have won because that would have really stirred everything up. But
something we didn't talk about, I just want to mention this before. Jeff is kind of missing the San Juan del Sur cast. He brought up to Dan that you can give away your reward to Rodney if you want.
He did. And I think Jeff loves anytime there can be drama, and I think his openness to that is kind of why San Juan del Sur got out of hand with it. And he needs to stop being so open with it.
Yeah, it's like, come on, Jeff. And then Rodney's, no, it's all good. And Jeff goes, you dodged a bullet there. Like,
yeah, Jeff, Dan wasn't really going to give it up ever. Like,
yeah, of course not. He was just saying, I feel for Rodney. He's not getting to go. That's why he feels bad. He's not,
Yeah. That's all. That should have been the end of it.
Yeah, and post immunity challenge. The crazy part with this, because we saw the advantage, we knew Tyler was going to go through Dan's bag. Way, from the preview from last week, not even really the weekend preview. We knew this was going to happen, so I thought this was going to happen really early in the episode. It took really long to get to the preview moment here.
Yeah, and this is one of the instances where I think that Tyler is not getting screen time, because even in an exciting moment like this, he did it kind of boring. He was so sneaky the way he found it. Nobody caught him. He went over to Carolyn. He got the bag back. He's able to open it and look through. Like, nobody even caught him. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is exactly how Tyler's playing this game. Nothing showy. Nothing that's going to be like, we need him on another season. But he's playing so freaking good. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, and then he tells Carolyn, and nothing really happened with it, though. So I guess that's why it was in the preview. It was just kind of something that should be really exciting. Like you said, it really wasn't. We knew it was going to happen the whole time. Nothing came of it, at least this episode. So I guess that's cool. We have Mike again pleading to Dan, and he's just not listening. We have Shireen pleading to Dan, not listening. Sierra seems like she would legitimately flip, but it's at this point it's 6 against 2. You don't only need to flip one person; you need to flip 2 people at least.
And I'm just going to keep comparing it to it. It's Panama because Mike is Terry. He could have given his idol to somebody and fixed and changed everything, and really like tried to get at least one vote and then try to get the numbers. And I forget who it was in that season, but somebody wanted to keep flipping over. Somebody like talked about it all. I think it was Bruce before Bruce got medevaced. He kept talking to Terry, and he was like, yeah, I'll come with you. I'll come with you. But nobody else would go with him. They all got so stubborn, and then they were all shocked when they were 5th, 4th, 6th. Like, Courtney was shocked that she got 6th place. Shane was shocked he got 5th. Like, they were shocked. And I feel like that's what's happening right now. They're like, Sierra wants to go, but you can't do it alone. There's only 2 of them.
Yeah, I feel for Sierra here, and I feel like that's why we're not seeing a lot of her. It's just because she doesn't really do much or anything, but she hasn't really been able to. She hasn't really had a great chance where it's weird because this season it hasn't been that tight. We haven't had like a 5-4 vote yet or like a 6-5 vote, where one person needs to flip. They've been like pretty – it's like it was like we had this major 7 against 4. And then
the best vote was the Vince vote out. That was really the only one that was close. I mean, the Joe one was close, but it wasn't. That was just because Jen was being a buffoon there. But yeah, I mean, they haven't been that close.
Yeah, it's true, but they've still been so exciting, and that's again coming back to Phil's point. It's the most exciting Pagong ever, and it's cool because it's Mike. Either he has an idol or he's going to win immunity next week. So next week we will see someone go home that isn't, that's part of this 6 alliance. One of them is going home next week for sure. I'm going to say it right now. I'm putting Mike at number 1 in my power rankings.
Yeah, so am I. And I would say who's in the worst position next week? I'd say Sierra. I would say Sierra's in the worst position. What?
Or Dan even.
Yeah, at least Dan has the extra vote, which could somehow help him, although it could just screw him over. What happens if next week?
Because that's what I'm saying. Like, Tyler and Carolyn know about it, so they don't want to have to account for that later. So I think they're going to try to blindside Dan so that he doesn't use it. That's what
I don't want to get too much into the predictions here, but I just want to throw this out there for people to think about. If Sierra and Dan catch wind next week that there was actually a 4-person alliance and they're going to go home, and Sierra, Dan, and Mike team up, and Dan uses the extra vote to cause a tie, dude, like it's desperation time, and that would just be awesome.
But again, I don't think you get. Man, I want to go back and look at that box and see if we can. I think Dan read the whole thing out loud, and it didn't say what happens in a tie. Can you use the second vote to force a tie, and then you get to use it again?
I feel like they would have to let you, like, because you had 2 votes. That's why the tie happened. Like, they can't just all of a sudden you don't have a vote. Like,
but is it a box with just one piece of paper in it? Like that's what it is.
Yeah, but he probably goes up there at the end if it's a tie, and he goes up there and he votes again. Like they probably just give him 2 pieces of parchment.
Probably, maybe not. Who knows? That's what I mean. It's up in the air. I don't know about that.
All right. Anyway, it is up in the air. It's hard to say. I just wanted to throw that out there because that would be cool.
That's huge. I mean, that's like a huge, big deal because if like next week it's 7, and if this does happen where Dan and Sarah realize too late and it's 4 against 3. That's like a very, very important question that we kind of need answered.
Yeah.
So it probably doesn't happen, or else they would have pointed it out already, maybe. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
But let's go to Tribal real quick, and let's talk about how this started off. They bring up the Shireen thing from last week, which is uncomfortable last week. It was still uncomfortable this week. This probably was the dumbest thing Dan's done the entire time. The entire time. When he said that he was adopted so he knew what domestic violence was. Like, no.
I don't think that's what he was saying.
I don't think he realized, once again, this was an instance of him not realizing how different these situations are and not realizing that he's wrong.
Yeah, I think this was heavily edited too. What Dan was trying to say is that he doesn't have a blood relative. And that's kind of what Shireen was getting at. I don't have blood. And when if you have not that I totally agree with Dan, and I don't agree that he should have said anything, but hopefully this was Dan's overall point. It probably isn't. Let me try to articulate it. Maybe you can tell me if this works or not. And this is what I was kind of thinking when Shireen said that. She's like, I have nobody. All I have is my boyfriend and his family and my friends. Like, okay, sure, you maybe don't have a blood relative, but I think that's very arbitrary. You can have like really close friends that really care about you. Who cares if they're not blood? Like, I'm not saying family isn't important or it's useless, but as long as you have people who love you, it doesn't matter why they love you, right?
No, I agree.
And I think Dan was trying to say, look, I don't have any blood relatives. I'm adopted, but I still have my own family. I have a wife. I have kids. Maybe that's what he was getting at. I don't think he was trying to compare adoption to domestic violence. I don't think that was where it was going. I think Jeff knows Dan's an idiot by now. I mean, these tribal councils go on hours. He's been with Dan enough to know this dude doesn't know what he's talking about ever. So Jeff kind of played it up, like trying to, really lay it on Dan because he knows he's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying. My problem with I got confused when Dan was saying it because he said all he had in his life were his adoptive parents and his mother, which made me think he actually ended up with a relationship with his mother later down the line, which means he does have a relationship with.
No, that's what he was saying. He has like one blood relative.
But Shireen has. Yeah, I mean, dude, I don't know. It's an uncomfortable situation that I wish they didn't bring up.
Like, it's not like you can understand. And he said the whole thing earlier about karma and how Shireen's a hypocrite and that Will went too far. But like, come on, you're a drama queen. You like to be the victim. I don't think there was any of that going on with last week. There was no her wanting to be a victim. She was the victim wholeheartedly. I don't think she was playing it up at all. We saw what Will said. It was terrible. It was awful. Interesting that it came up right away at this tribal council. Will still doesn't want to apologize. I don't know what that's all about. Even Jeff says, and this is what Jeff has said about his role at tribals. He's asking the questions that the audience is asking, like, Will, why don't you apologize? There's someone on the jury right there. Like there's 3 jury members. You could get to the end and have to answer for this. It looks like Shireen's even going to the jury right now. Don't you want to say you're sorry? And he goes, nope, it's the game. Like, what?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's just dumb. Like, he doesn't understand. Him and Dan are the same person. Like, they really are. And it just gets old to watch. Like, we don't need 2 of them. One of them needed to have been voted out by now.
Who's
fatter? We don't need 2 of them. What?
Who's fatter?
Probably Will.
Okay.
Was that like a...
No, I mean, you said they're the same person. It's like one of them has to be fatter.
Yeah, probably Will. But, I mean, in terms of how they talk to women and how they treat other people on the island, damn.
I think Will is meaner, but Dan is more of an asshole still. Just because Will blew up once. Dan is like just everything. Like it happens every week. He just says something dumb. Like he's always just saying just ridiculous, just wrong things.
The problem is they're both positive people. Like, we've seen Will be positive. We've seen Dan be positive. The problem is they also both think they're funny as hell. And they're not. They're rude. And they don't understand that. And, like, there's a difference there. Like, they don't have the smart-ass ability that Tyson had where he could insult you to your face and you thought it was funny. They're just rude and mean, and they don't realize that they're doing it.
Yeah. I like you said, I wish one of them was gone by now. Okay, then Shireen throws Tyler under the bus real hard. Goes on for like a minute. And we see this a lot at Tribal. It rarely ever works. It just doesn't seem like this ever really works. Unless you're Malcolm pulling out idols to protect your friends. And he had 2 of them in that case. This just doesn't – people go into Tribal decided already.
Yeah, and everything that you do at Tribal I feel like is just a desperate plea. And really, I feel like the role of Tribal Council over the years – is just to catch the audience up. I don't feel like anything really changes. I mean, even when Malcolm had the idols, Eric was sitting there going, just do exactly what we said we were going to do and make him use the idols. Like, don't let him bluff. Eric was sitting there saying, we have to just stick to the plan. And like everybody already knows exactly what they're going to do when they come to Tribal. It just depends. Mike already knew, I feel like, that he wasn't going to give the idol to Shireen. He knew exactly. He had his whole thing planned. And I feel like everybody knows.
So too. I think it was a bad plan, though, because like no one's gonna buy that once you put it back in your own pocket. You gotta let Shireen hold on to it, put it around her neck, let her keep it. And I really think it's like the auction last week. If he had pulled the trigger, he'd have an extra vote, he'd still be on the bottom like he already is, and he would have the idol, and he'd be, still be good at challenges. And I think again, he just didn't go far enough with it. Back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he should have let Shireen actually use it. I think he should have, he needed to keep it in his possession, or keep it so that he could use it next week. But he wasn't going to he wasn't going to turn the tides of the game. That's pretty much what I'm saying here. He couldn't turn the tides.
Well, he kind of did, because Dan Will and Tyler both voted for Dan, and that is going to cause a lot of problems, it looks like, because Dan takes everything really personally, way too personally.
What I thought was a good plan here was them saying, we're voting for Tyler. One person's voting for Tyler, and I'm going to throw a random vote out there. And then they both vote for Tyler, because what happens there is the only name they gave was Tyler, so if people are getting paranoid, you would have thought they would have almost voted for Tyler instead of voting for Dan, which obviously Tyler can't vote for himself, so he's going to vote for Dan. Will, I think, is just always looking out for Will. So he's like, I better just vote for Dan. I think that's what's going to happen. But, I did think that was good, because had any of the other people flipped, they probably would have written Tyler's name down, because they would have been scared, or they would have just, they wouldn't have known who the other person was. And, there's already 2 votes on Tyler, if that made any sense of me explaining it.
No, it did. And I think somehow this is going to work out for Will again. He's going to get away with voting for somebody and not get caught. Well,
they're still going to wonder who voted for Tyler the second vote.
Yeah, let's think. So they're going to say, okay, Shireen definitely voted for Tyler. They know that. Mike voted for most likely Dan, is what people are going to think, because Mike said he's going to throw a vote at somebody else. And then we know Tyler gets caught voting for Dan. And I think Will can play it off like he voted for Tyler. And Tyler, he can tell, I don't know, they'll figure it out. They're in that 4. As long as Dan and Sierra don't really figure anything out too much, I think they'll be okay. But there could be fireworks next week. There has to be, right? Because Mike has his idol.
There has to be. I mean, one of them is going home. One of those 6 is going home next week, which is pretty cool when there's 7 people left that one person is safe. It makes it especially when it's the person who's on the other side of the alliance.
Yeah, when the person on the bottom is safe, it's it's always fun. All right, well, that is the episode. Should we
have
get
a bunch
into
of
any of
comments
these
so far?
Comments?
Yeah, let's go through some of these, because we have what is my little things 13. So I mean, I'll just put them in order and we can go through them in order.
Sounds good.
First ones we got. First, we had Edwin Hernandez. Would you agree that even with the perceived unlikable cast, that this season is a top 10 season? Even with the predictable boots, the episodes have been really exciting. And once the Alliance of 6 have to turn on each other, it will be even more exciting. What do you think?
I think we have to wait a couple more episodes before. I mean, how many episodes do we have left? Not many, right? I think 3.
3. We should have 3 in May. That's it.
We go down to 6 next week, then go down to 5 the next week, and then start the finale.
The finale is May 20th. Yeah.
Okay. Top 10 season, maybe. I think we're too much in the middle of it to really make a decision on that right now.
You have to see how the rest of this plays out. But what I find insane right now is, as much as I don't really root for anybody here, I'm very entertained every single week, and the votes have been predictable. Everybody I've liked has been voted out, and I'm still sitting here I can't wait for the next episode. So that says something for the way this season is going.
Right. I mean, it's still Survivor, so it will always be somewhat good. I do think this is better than most seasons, and having aired just right after San Juan del Sur probably helps it out a little bit too, because we kind of missed real Survivor there for a bit. Sorry.
Yeah, San Juan del Sur was not real Survivor. Everybody remember that.
Right now, it's probably a top half. I don't know. We gotta wait.
You got to see who wins. You got to see how this extra vote plays out. You got to see what other characters might emerge here, because there's always somebody who emerges at the end, and you're just like, I did not see them coming, and all of a sudden you start to like them.
Sierra, maybe.
Sierra, maybe. Sierra was great tonight. I'm telling you, I liked Sierra a lot tonight.
Yes, it was a lot good. We'll go right into our next comment from None of Your Business. I love that more people who got airtime tonight. Sierra was one of those people. Carolyn had some airtime tonight. Tyler had some airtime tonight. So we are seeing more of them. We just need to see a little bit more of them. And it's hard to now just – I don't know. The thing the editors pulled with Mike, how now, like last episode, he fell from the graces so hard and so fast that I kind of like him. And like that he was right all along about this 4-person alliance coming against him. I'm almost on Mike's side. It got me so quick. So maybe they can get me on like the Sierra train or the Tyler train really quickly too. We'll have to see.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that turns out. I mean, the next comment kind of goes into it's none of your business again, but they say I want Haley and Shirin to come back. As for the guys, I want Mike, Max, and Vince to come back. Maybe Tyler. If you look at the people that they just listed, maybe Tyler, but the only other one who's in there is Mike. And like the only other one that they really want to see back would be Mike. The rest of them are already gone.
And we have confirmation, or not confirmation, but a pretty good idea of the date of the announcement, right?
Yeah, they're saying next Wednesday.
So a week from today, we'll have the list of potential season 31 people.
Yeah, which will be cool. I mean, we're definitely gonna have to do a special podcast on that, and that'll be a lot of fun just to see who actually made the cut. But
maybe it's the person who gets voted out next week is on the list, and that's why they're waiting till next week.
You know, I'm actually thinking that tonight Shirin was on the list, so they waited for her to go, and I think they might tell you at the beginning of the episode next week.
Interesting. That could be the case too. Could be at the end. Could be before. Who knows? Steel Punch. All right. Surprise, surprise. On the CBS preview, Tyler and Dan get in a fight. Dan stayed once again. # go Dan. I think we have 2 Dan fans on that listen to us. There are very few, I would imagine, because he just plummets harder and harder each week.
Yeah, he's out of 7 people, he's 7. Out of 6 people, he'll be my 6th. I mean, actually, that's a lie. Somehow he's managed to not be the least likable person on this season. That's incredible. That says something about how unlikable this is.
Says more about Will than it does about Dan, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Okay. Now we have none of your business again. So we're getting lots of comments, but they're kind of all from the same people. So
that's okay. Just keep
it is okay.
It makes us sound cool. Maybe we'll all be anonymous from now on.
Yeah,
we'll just we have a lot of listeners.
Yeah. Okay. So none of your business says, honestly, I'm glad Mike kept his idol. If Tyler had gone home tonight, Mike and Shirin still would have been next. But now the 2 votes for Dan can cause Mike to flip his game. Mike for MVP. Yeah. I kind of agree. Like I said, I think you could have not played the idol. I'm not saying he should have played it for Shirin at all. I'm saying he should have given it to her and have her give it back to him before the votes are read, so he can still have it if they do vote for Shirin. And the bluff would just look all the more, just way better. It would have probably worked, I think.
This is the way I look at it.
He probably still gets MVP though, because what he tried to do worked.
Yeah, exactly. What he tried to do worked. And like I said, the way I still look at this is look how far Terry got in Panama by using the idol as a threat. Look how far Malcolm got when he played his idols to make one big move. You know, you got to keep the power in your hands and just hope that you can keep going. And I know Parvati was able to play the 2 idols for other people, but to me, that was dumb luck that just happened to work out for her, and it worked out perfect. You know, so like sometimes it works, but I feel like having the power in your hands, control your own destiny in this game, because if you get to the final 3, anything can happen.
If Shirin was more of a GOAT, I almost say like you really want to keep her around and your idol, and you probably I still think you should have given it to her. But having Shirin go isn't the worst thing for Mike. He's at the bottom anyway. He's still going to need to win immunity anyway. And Shirin is liked by the current jury members. So it's not like the end of the world that Shirin went home here for Mike.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
It didn't do him any good.
Steel Punch says Dan for MVP. He stayed in the game, and now I see him as a Keith. He's going to ass backwards and win. Keith did not ass backwards and win, and people liked Keith, one of the most likable players probably of that season. And maybe
he was still ass backwards.
Oh, he was asked backwards, but he didn't win. I don't think anyone likes Dan except for you, Steel Punch, and maybe that one other guy.
Philip Nielsen.
Yeah, he did this whole fan fiction how Dan somehow wins, but Dan doesn't do anything. He's all talk. Peter Rubenstein says, "Let's go, Rodney. Picked him to win in my boot list. He's got this." Hey, he very well might got this.
Yeah.
Except for next week.
I wouldn't be mad if Rodney won.
What's going on with Rodney next week? You think that's a game move?
I think that it's part of Rodney's plan. I'm telling you, I think that it's going to end up being part of his plan because Rodney's not going to quit this game. He's gone too far. He can see the money, and you know he wants the money. And I think it's a game move. I think he's always thinking. And I think Rodney's playing a lot better than he's getting credit for. I feel like Mike's getting a lot more credit than Rodney is, and I feel like Rodney and Tyler. And I feel like Rodney and Tyler are probably playing the best games. But Mike might be your winner, and that's why they might be showing him a little bit more than those two.
Yeah, and maybe it's before the reward, and he's just kind of had it and fed up, or maybe he loses another reward. I mean, he needs to get on a reward at some point.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That could have something to do with it. Okay, Jimmy O says, if Mike wins, would he be one of the most satisfying winners in recent memory? Not to say that we haven't had great winners recently, but I'm talking about this from a storyteller perspective. I would say, yeah, because of what happened last week when he fell so hard to the bottom by pointing out a real alliance that everyone said he was delusional about. And it makes it really fun. And it would be like a Chris win. And that's one of the most satisfying wins ever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it would be satisfying, but other than Natalie was a satisfying winner because of the circumstances of the season. But prior to that, Tony was a very satisfying winner. I still say Tyson was a very satisfying winner because I really like Tyson. So I wouldn't say that we haven't had unsatisfying winners, especially from a storyteller perspective. Who told better stories than Tony?
No, not like them actually telling stories, like the story of their win.
Yeah, the story of their win is probably better. I mean, I just think
I think Chris right now, if we don't include Mike, because we know, I think Chris has the best story of his win. Biggest comeback. Like, that's what makes a great story. Or Yule's win was, I love that story. How it was for them. They got Penner to flip, then got the numbers, booted Penner, rode out to the final three. That was a good one.
It's the underdog thing. And I'm just saying.
I mean, that's what it is.
I thought Tony's storyline to win was great. So I wouldn't say that this would be ridiculously more satisfying than in recent memory. Because I think the recent winners have had really good stories.
Yeah, I'm just like it right, and this is why we think him and Rob are going winners, because you don't want someone who's in control the whole time, just trucking along and winning easily. That's not what you want to see. You want to see someone go against adversity. I think Denise was an extremely satisfying win. She went to every tribal council. That's a good story right there.
It's almost like if Tyler wins, he would be the boring winner because he had the numbers the whole time and he was never really in danger. He would almost be a boring winner.
Could be. Okay, so none of your business. Or Jimmy O says, I disagree with Will on this one. If Mike gave Shireen the idol to use, then he would have been back at square one, as Tyler going home doesn't change that much. Now no, I'm not saying let her use the idol. So I think I've made that clear at this point. Like, don't let her actually use it. Let her wear it. Let her have it with her as a bluff. The bluff would sell way, way better.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. It's just you have to really trust Shireen to not just play it.
I think you can trust Shireen. Like, because imagine this from Shireen's perspective. She plays it. She screws over her only ally in the game. Now there's no idol to even mess with at all. She's still on the bottom. People don't like her. I mean, I think you get it would be a great move for Shireen to give it back and have the bluff work out. I think you could. We don't know how close Mike and Shireen really are, but it seems like they've developed a pretty strong bond after being on the bottom for like the past 2 episodes.
Yeah, it seems like they kind of have a little bit. There's 2 here that I kind of want to save for our 2 by Peter Rubenstein. I kind of want to save for the predictions episode because they're pretty much predictions. But none of your business said Will is definitely more of an asshole than Dan. I think Dan is more ignorant than he is mean-spirited. Not trying to defend him, but yeah, I kind of get that. I kind of think that, Dan just doesn't realize how dumb he is. Will's kind of, I agree with that. And
I don't know. It's hard because everyone says Will is so nice except for that one thing. It's weird that Will stands by it so heavily and he hasn't apologized. That's like the one weird thing. I think they're both. yeah, Will was very malicious with the intent to be malicious. I think Dan is really ignorant, but he's still totally an ass. It's tough. It's a good topic for debate, really.
Yeah. And then one last thing, Peter Rubenstein asked, does Will have anyone left on his fantasy team? Yeah, he's got Dan.
I got Dan. I don't think I can get MVP from here on out now, unless he does something great with this advantage that he has and has a good episode. I think he won MVP already once, right? When he used to think he had really bad episodes in the beginning, and then he kind of came up. He was like having the redemption arc, and now there's no redemption to be had. At this point.
All right, I'll do the boot list real quick, and then we'll get out of here. We've gone for like an hour, so let's do the boot list. Shireen was a big point getter again, man. These just everybody just keeps getting closer and closer together, and I was so close to being able to announce my name in top like 10. I was so excited.
You just did by saying that.
Yeah, I know. That's why I did it. I was 1 point off, guys, and I'm gonna tell everybody. Hold on, I gotta find the freaking Excel tab. All right, here we go. Jokesters 123 has 35 points. He's winning by a lot. Rob Kellogg has 42. Adam Klein and Ali Simmons have 44. Son of Nuo, Jimmy O, and Alex Blackson have 47. Oh, and Sarah Harkins has 47. Sarah Christina has 48. Noah Trader has 48. Dory Magica has 49. And Lauren West has 49. So that's more than 10, but I just kind of wanted to say everybody was under 50. I have 50.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm at 56.
Yeah, Shireen hurt you more than it hurt me. I had Shireen at 9th, so.
Yeah, the thing is, I have Dan still way up high on my boot list. Every week he survives. I'm just getting points, but he's also the only one left on my fantasy team. So it's
hey,
it could go either way.
It could.
What is the fantasy score? Can you give us an update on that?
Yeah, if I can find it again. Hold on. Fantasy game. Here we go. Will has 48 points and one person left. Phantom Tribe has 9 and I have 39. So you're winning, but that's because you get points every time somebody gets voted out now. So
that's right.
Like from the last 3 vote outs, it was Joe, Jen, Shireen. That's your fantasy team right there. So you've gotten points just for that. It's not, you haven't gotten points for immunity challenge wins and stuff. So
yeah, man. Bummer.
Yeah, it makes me laugh. It makes me happy. But yeah,
should have taken Carolyn over.
I told you. Go back and listen to our fantasy draft thing. I was telling you how easy of a pick that was.
Yeah, but I didn't want to make the easy pick. I wanted to go.
You wanted to pick the first person voted out.
Nah, no, we didn't know it was so at that point. Everyone knew it before the premiere, though. Okay, I think that's all we have. Make sure to comment on the video. And let us know your comments, your predictions, your questions. MVP. Discuss what is MVP? I mean, I think it's Mike, right? Like it's
Mike or Tyler.
The move did what it was gonna do. I just think it could have been executed a little bit better, and it would have been, even if you're taking the risk by letting Shireen have the idol in her hands. I still don't think she plays it.
Yeah,
gives it back to you.
Yeah, and then that would have been cool. That would have been so cool. That's hypothetical Survivor in the alternate reality. That would have been awesome.
But he was so close to doing it, and it's like that auction move. He was just so close to making like such a baller play, and he just falls short.
This is why we need to get on the show because
I know, man. I would be doing things I would have done what Mike did, except go all out with it.
Yeah, and I would have voted you out. See, this would have been great. We could have been on the show.
You voted me out. I had immunity.
Next, blood versus water.
All right. Thank you for listening.